Welcome to Vigorous Finance. I'm Coach Steve. In this video, I want to discuss whether competing is worth it or not, purely from a financial perspective. So disregarding if you have awesome genetics and great response to hormones, and you're basically getting your bodybuilding for free, or you have completely horrendous genetics, or average genetics, and you don't respond so well to hormones and you get a ton of side effects in return. I think that video is going to be for the second group of people that have average response to hormones. They want to compete at the higher level, whether they have to start at the bottom at the regional level, then move up to the nationals in an attempt to get a pro card, go for the pro shows, and then hopefully make it to the Olympia one day. For the guys with average genetics, this video is going to be very important because finances is going to determine to which level of this sport or display of art or pageant or however you want to label it. The finances is going to determine to which level you're going to make it. And if finances are limited, you might have to abort. Now, if you have awesome genetics and a good response to drugs and a good sense of business, obviously, you should be able to cruise along relatively easily. Sponsorships are going to be there waiting for you. You'll be able to coach. You'll be able to make money in the sport. But for the genetically average guys who require several years in order to develop their physique before it's even competitive at the regional level, finances is going to determine whether they make it to that phase or not. So from a financial perspective, you have to look at it this way. Competing until you make it is an investment. And it could be that your genetics and your structure and your ability to tolerate the drugs from a side effects perspective, not your response to the drugs, but from a side effect perspective, keeping you healthy along the process or not. All those finances and those aspects, they're going to determine to which level you're going to make. Now, in the beginning, if you don't have a name for yourself, it's all an investment. It's all an investment of time and money and effort. Now, when you make a name for yourself, you should be able to get sponsorships, just like the genetically gifted guys that get it a lot sooner, a lot quicker, and a lot more easily than you do with average genetics. So until you make it to that level and you're actually getting a return of investment, you're basically paying everything out of pocket, all your competition fees, all your drug bills, your health markers, your ultrasounds, etc., your food bill, your gym membership, everything is coming out of your own pocket, and it's a huge investment to get to a point where you're actually making money off the sport. Now, I started making money off the sport, let's say 14 years into my bodybuilding journey. Now, I didn't compete. Could I sped up that process by competing earlier? Probably. But I decided the first 11 years to stay drug-free. I have no interest in competing. And back then, unlike now, there was no social media to promote yourself. So even if you did a show, and I saw that with a lot of guys surrounding me, they did a show and nobody else besides the gym that they trained in knew that they competed. So back then, in most countries, you would need to win the overall of your city first, then do the regionals, then do the nationals in order to get your pro card, right? And then you would get a name for yourself, hopefully through the magazines. And nowadays, you don't really require to go through that process because you have social media. Now, in social media, your reputation is king. Reputation is king. So whether you provide knowledge or entertainment or something inspirational, whatever route you decide to go with, your reputation is king. So if you're still a competitor, let's say you have a good reputation and you compete frequently, you can maintain this reputation by competing and staying relevant from a competitive aspect. So nowadays, you can market yourself and build your reputation through social media. So you don't need that aspect of competition to build a reputation for you and get your name out there. You can do that through social media, just like I'm doing. I'm talking about all aspects of bodybuilding. I'm talking about training, nutrition, pharmacology, little nuances that people need to pay attention to, like their electrolytes. I won't hammer you guys about the electrolytes video anymore. Don't worry. So there's many aspects you can discuss. Now, some guys position themselves mostly on one subject. Some guys might only talk about training. Other guys mostly talk about nutrition. And of course, as we all know, there's plenty of guys that only talk about drugs and pharmacology, whether that's performance enhancing or recreational. A lot of guys only talk about that aspect. Here in this channel, I'll try to keep a broad perspective of everything that I feel is related to bodybuilding, whether that's drugs, training, nutrition, supplementation, all the little minor nuances that contribute to your overall bodybuilding. And the reputation allows me to make money. And the information that I give you guys allows me to make money from coaching consultations, private Facebook groups in the past, personalized advice by email, ebooks, speaking, seminars. There's a million opportunities out there, but I've never competed. And I know several other successful people in the fitness industry that never competed as well, and they positioned themselves in a certain way on social media, whether that's through inspiration or another subject. They're contributing to the fitness industry, and people are generous enough to purchase one of their services or clothes or ebooks or etc. So when you look at it that way, the difference between competing to get your name out there and social media to get your name out there, now people will relate to you based on your personality. And one of the reasons why I never wanted to compete is because my personality goes completely 180 and goes from a happy-go-lucky, entertaining guy to the most asinine, cynical asshole you could probably find on the planet. So that's one of the reasons why I never wanted to compete, because I feel that I could be a much better person by not going through that process. So I've made it to, let's say, 6%, 7% body fat, whether that was drug-free or enhanced. And beyond that, to continue to be actually competitive, disregarding the not so good structure that I have and missing body parts, purely from a body fat perspective and the things I needed to go through to get to 4% body fat, the pharmacology involved, I probably would have been a terrible person for at least 2 to 3 months. Now, in those 2 to 3 months that you're a terrible person, or I felt I was a terrible person, you can show your personality on Instagram, maybe maintain like 8% body fat or 10% body fat, which is usually enough to get a little bit of notoriety and respect and actually make people want to look at you, because if you're a high body fat level, most people just, swipe left, swipe right. I never used Tinder, but that's basically what it turns into. Oh, this guy's fat, swipe to the right. And that's social media nowadays. People make a very quick assessment of how you look. And if you look good, they might follow your advice or use one of the services. If you don't look good, well, you better be strong. If you're in the fitness industry, then you can get away with it. And if you're not strong and you're not in shape, it will be very hard to build a reputation and get some sort of monetization out of your social media follow. So competing, you'll see that less nowadays. People are a little bit more open while they're competing, or some guys are able to tolerate it more. Again, I'm talking about the guys that are popular, because I don't follow the guys that are not really popular or maybe don't have a pleasing physique, and they disappear from social media for a while. They don't market themselves. They don't promote themselves. They don't talk about anything. They don't show the process of competing. And it's not interesting. So they're hoping for monetization at the end of the road. They step on stage. They're praying for a sponsorship. They're praying for prize money, pro card, etc. And it might not play out that way. Whereas you actually take the same investment of competing, unless you have awesome genetics, of course, and a great structure, and people are begging you left and right, please compete, please compete, please compete. It's not the case for most people, but some people just feel that way to do that anyway. So if you put that effort into a business, whether that's social media promotion or an actual business, and you use the same amount of finances, I can almost guarantee you that the second part is going to be more successful. Because by promoting yourself on YouTube, on Instagram, staying in touch with your fans and, being nice, which is sometimes difficult because some of the comments are a little bit derogatory. So if I was in a shitty mood because I was competing, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to build up my reputation and my YouTube following and my Instagram following for the first couple of years until I got a really good name for myself. So when you look at it this way, I feel that you can build your brand and your reputation much faster through social media, and you'll see a much greater return of investment, or a much quicker return of investment of all the effort you have to put into social media, because again, it takes a significant amount of time and it might detract a little bit from your overall bodybuilding. I'm certainly subject to that. The more you invest into social media, the better your business will be, but the more it detracts from your passion, which is the actual bodybuilding or whatever fitness aspirations you have. Now, if you look at it from a bodybuilding perspective and you just go, you dive headfirst into the bodybuilding competition aspect, you'll be a lot more productive on the stage. Of course, when you combine the social media and the stage, unless you have a social media team working for you, but that requires finances as well. So if you do it all by yourself and you have average genetics, yes, if you focus on bodybuilding 100% and you disregard the promotion and the reputation and building your brand, and you only go for competing, and we've seen it happen many, many times before. Guys with average genetics, they go 100%. They put all their eggs into one basket. They start doing shows. They'll keep winning, mostly until they reach the national level, and then they're fighting for a top 5. So during this time, they didn't have an opportunity to build their brand because they went all in on the bodybuilding competition. They spent a significant amount of money, again, because nowadays, without promotion, you're not making as much money as you can because only people around you know about you, but the rest of the world doesn't know about you until you get publicized in a magazine or get into one of the bigger YouTube channels who does one interview. And unfortunately, people's memories are relatively short. So you do one interview on one channel, and then maybe another channel. You get a little bit more business for about a month after that, and then people forget about you again. So I've found that the same with my YouTube channel. You take a break for 1 week, and then your views go down because people already forget who you are. So I'm doing my best to keep up with the daily upload schedule so you guys don't forget about me. So let's say you have $100,000 to spend, and you dump it all into competing, or you dump it all into the accrual of knowledge. So you have to do a significant amount of research because you need to know what you're talking about. And for that, you need experience in time. So let's say you give yourself a time frame of 5 years and $100,000 to spend. That return of investment with bodybuilding after 5 years for average genetics, I don't think it's going to happen, honestly. And what I've seen a lot over the years, where that was coaching clients directly or talking to competitors backstage, guys that I didn't coach, is that people get disgruntled after 5 years or 3 years or whatever period they gave themselves to go all in into this bodybuilding journey of competitions. If they don't make it to the point they expected it to be, they get disgruntled and they quit. Or, in unfortunate cases, they got a health complication along the road. Not the case for my clients. Full disclaimer, not the case for my clients. All my clients are healthy. I don't push it that hard with those guys. And I keep track of their health. But I've seen it with other people. After 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, they're still pushing at that national level. Top 2, top 3, top 5, vying for a pro card or fighting for the overall. They're in their overall, but they don't win. They maybe play second or third, so they don't get their pro card or reach the next level. They get a health complication along the way. They're unable to take it to the next level just to be able to win that level of competition. So whether that's the regional, the nationals, or a pro show, or the world championships, for example, or universe. And at this next level is the point where they start making a return of investment because they've built a reputation, they're likable, they're approachable, they have knowledge to share, and people actually know about them. Because again, in this day and age, you need to be known worldwide because there's not so much business in the city that you grew up in. And there's a limited amount of people there. Even if you live in a huge city, the bigger the city you live in, the more competition you'll have. So you need to be known internationally. So let's take this $100,000 and 5-year plan to get a return of investment and see if that applies to competitive bodybuilding. So $100,000 over 5 years is $20,000 per year, or about $1,615 per month. Now, personally, I'm spending between on cycle, again, this is on cycle with blood work, between $800 to $1,200 per month solely on bodybuilding. And that includes my gym membership, that includes my supplement bill, my food bill, my performance enhancing drug bill, Like I mentioned in another video before, I'll put up a card right there. I double whatever I spent on bodybuilding pharmacology and put that into a savings account, and that is more than enough to cover whatever I'm spending on health. So that's blood work, ultrasounds, organ checks, etc. Whatever I spend on drugs, I double that and put it into a savings account, which I use for blood work, health checks, etc. And even the deep tissue massage therapy sessions are coming out of the savings account. So when you look at it this way, I'm spending a little bit more on drugs than I do on health checks, but my drug bill is pretty moderate, especially considering I'm not competing, so I don't need to take so much pharmacology just to be able to be competitive. And my drug bill isn't astronomical either, because I'm not overdoing the drugs. So those are pretty much closely related. Now, it depends on your healthcare system if you can get away with it. I know some countries are way more expensive regarding health checkups than it is in Thailand. I mean, I can do blood work for $100, $200, maybe $250 if I want to get an extensive one. So your performance-enhancing drug bill and your health bill are going to be inversely correlated. More drugs means more health checkups, and less drugs means less requirement for health checkups. But when you do competition with average genetics, you're probably going to spend a significant amount of money on performance-enhancing drugs, especially when you start making it to the next level. Because the more muscle you have, generally speaking, you require more performance-enhancing drugs. It doesn't mean that it's more anabolics. It could be that you have a synergy and you optimize the entire process with several different compounds. Now, the majority of that performance-enhancing drug bill is going to be growth hormone. And for a select few of you guys that have a good hookup, maybe you can add IGF-1 to that drug bill as well. Again, it's very expensive. Insulin is not going to be a financial burden. Most of the anabolic steroids are not going to be a financial burden unless you decide to use Primobolan for longer periods of time, for example, because it's pharmaceutical grade and generally more expensive compared to the other anabolics. Unless you decide to run underground labs and you get a good discount. Hey, I know some of you guys are getting sponsored with anabolics, so for those guys, it's not going to be an issue. But you're still spending it blood pressure medications or things that your source isn't able to provide. So the drug bill and the food bill and the health bill are going to be the bulk of your expenses when you compete. Again, you have to eat good whole foods to be able to get shredded, preventing digestive issues. You don't want too much processed food or the cheap food you can get away with during the off season. The food bill, the drug bill, and the corresponding health bill is going to be the bulk of your expenses when you compete. And a lot of the guys that start competing early on and are not that financially secure, they'll probably have to restrict finance or draw finances from somewhere else just to be able to afford their drug bill or their food bill or their health bill or their supplement bill, for example, during the competition season, because competition is generally more expensive. So let's say you have $1,500 to spend on everything bodybuilding. I think that's more than enough. But you might have to draw funds for somewhere else. So you might have to go cheap on housing and move back to your parents, or you might have to sell your car and take public transportation, or you might have to forego any other expenses that are not contributing to your bodybuilding and live a little bit like a hermit. Again, you only have limited finances and you're putting all of your eggs into one basket. Praying, well, there's a little bit of praying and a little bit of mindless determination involved, of course, when you decide to compete. So let's discuss the best case scenario. You've done a 4-month prep for your first show. Again, guys probably need a 4-month prep, maybe even 5-month prep, just to be able to get nasty peeled. Most guys don't even reach that stage on their first show. It might take consecutive shows to get nasty peeled. But let's be conservative and say that you only needed 4 months of actual contest prep to win your first show. Let's say that's $6,000 or $6,500 based on that $100,000 investment that we have for 5 years. So now the first 4 months are gone. Now we have 4 years and 8 months left. Yeah, you already spent $6,500, maybe $2,000 for a coach, for example, and the other $4,500 you spent on drugs, food, supplements, housing, etc. Yeah, just to keep you going. You won that first show. After that first show, there's probably no monetization present. You might get $500 if you're lucky. Again, if you compete in the NPC or some of the other federations, amateur federations, there's no prize money. So you spend all this money, entry fee, tanning, waxing, dieting, drugs, etc. You spend all this money and you're able to proceed to the next level. Okay, let's assume your health is in check. You're able to proceed to the next level. You need to do, in most cases, an off-season first. I'm assuming you didn't blow past the competition because you have adverse genetics. You didn't blow past everybody and you can do the regionals next week, for example. Maybe you require one off-season and another contest prep because, again, you gain a little bit of size during the off-season. Hopefully you stay working with the coach that just got you your first win at your first show. I mean, first place, first show. That's a huge accomplishment in itself. You do a long off-season. You continue with your monthly bill for bodybuilding purposes of $1,650 per month. You do an 8-month off season and a 4-month contest prep. You compete at the regionals the next year, gaining a significant amount of size. Now we have 3 years and 8 months left. Yeah. In a lot of cases, unfortunately, you're not going to win the regionals on your first try, unless you're very, very good. But we're talking about the average guys here, the average genetics with average response that need to flip pennies just to be able to afford bodybuilding competition and the lifestyle that involves it. Again, recreational bodybuilding, being a gym rat, and even if you're a full-time bodybuilder, if you don't compete, it's way cheaper, way less demanding, and it allows for so much more extra time which you can spend with your partner or business or anything else you like to do, playing video games. Most guys that do compete still are able to play video games. So all this extra time, all this extra effort, all this extra money that you're spending, even by the time a lot of people reach regional level, they're still not making any money by that time. So let's say after 1.5 years of your competitive journey, you make top 5 at the regionals, which means you're not ready to win your class and you're certainly not ready to win your overall, allowing you to proceed into the nationals. You might need another year. And then you're 2.5 years into your competitive journey. And a lot of guys are still spending way more than they're actually making from bodybuilding at that point. Again, you have to look at the balance. Are you spending more than that you're earning? For me, that's not the case. I'm spending way less than that I'm earning from the fitness industry. But a lot of guys that go all in on the competition and don't really understand the business aspect of it, they're spending all their money into this bodybuilding journey. And for some guys that might pay off. Maybe some guys win shows, boom, they're pro. And they were even making money along the way because they didn't disregard the social media aspect, allowing them to promote themselves before they ever got a pro card. Again, that's something you can do nowadays. But even as close as 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I mean, YouTube is what, 10 years old, 12 years old? Instagram was non-existent. We had Facebook, MySpace. You guys remember that? So it was very difficult to get your name out there 10 years ago. Nowadays, it's not an issue. You can start promoting yourself before you even do a show and guide yourself through the process. So I think nowadays you can make money along the way. Again, if you're able to provide a quality service, you're knowledgeable or entertaining or inspirational. So let's say you went all in for 2.5 years. You lived like a hermit, a la Dorian Yates. You disregarded social media and nobody besides the little competitive circuit in your area or on the national, regional level knows about you. Let's say you went in 2.5 years, 100% and gave it your best. You win your class, but you're still not winning the overall and you're still not making more money than you spent on bodybuilding. I think it's time to call it quits. Honestly, focus your effort somewhere else. You can keep going. And I've seen this happen a ton of times. Again, to the guys either get a health complication or they run out of financial means. These guys we never hear about because they didn't make a name for themselves. But it's way more common than you think. So you hear the success stories all the time, right? Because the guys that are successful, they get to be on the bigger YouTube channels. They get the interviews. They get the sponsorship. They get the pro card. They make it to the Olympia stage. That's an extreme small percentage of the people that decide to do competition. Yeah, there's how many pros are there, or how many pros that you know that you can name by name. I'm pretty sure you cannot make a list of 100 people. Now, how big is the bodybuilding industry, or how many people compete? Millions? millions of people, and the large majority of those people are not getting paid directly from competing. Now, they might like to do it as a hobby, or they might consider that an investment to monetize their reputation a little bit further down the line. But I can tell you that a lot of guys are not going to make it simply because of the financial aspect and all the extra funds that you have to put into competitive bodybuilding. And those guys you never hear about because they didn't make it. So please don't get bamboozled from all the guys that did make it. It's a very small percentage of the people that tried. So you'll have to look at yourself critically and analyze your physique, and probably ask several people who've been in the bodybuilding industry for 10, 20, 30 years. Ask for constructive criticism before you decide to dive into this path, and ask them, do you think I can make it? Do you think I have the potential to go somewhere? Now, if all 10 people tell you no, there might be a reason for it. If half and half says yes and the other half says no, you might still have potential, because again, not everybody can estimate where your efforts and your finances and your genetic response is going to take you. So you don't have to be discouraged when a couple of people say, I don't think you're going to make it, and several people say you will make it. In the end, it's your choice to decide which direction you're going to go with. And if you do decide to go with it, don't neglect the social media aspect of it. I've seen it happen too much times. Again, I know it's sometimes a little bit of annoying, and when your personality takes a beating, just like my personality takes a beating when I go into a deep cut, you still have to be patient and market yourself, because for most people, that's where the majority of the income is going to come from. Most guys will not make any money competing, even if they win pro shows. I mean, winning a pro show is what, $10,000 after taxes, and considering the expenses that you had leading up to that show, you're not even close to breaking even. You can look at it this way. Winning a pro show is enough to cover your flights and take your partner out on a nice holiday to compensate for the shitty times you had leading up to the competition. Again, most people are not in the best mood when they start prepping for shows. For a select 11 people, or maybe 25 people that place first or second at the Olympia, okay, there's a huge monetary reward at the end. But that's only for 11 to 25 people who place consistently first or second. It's not a very large amount of people. So it will take you a while before you reach that level. And again, if you have average genetics, you'll probably not even get to that point. Again, if you do decide to compete, make sure you document that on social media, whether that's on Instagram, YouTube, or a combination of all the social media platforms. If you have time for that amount of extra work, document the whole thing, because the following you build along your journey is going to be more beneficial than the actual reward that you get from competition. So whether you place first, second, third, last, if your fans like what you're doing, they will be supportive, and there's a way to monetize that. So don't disregard the social media aspect. I tell that to all my competitors, even the competitors that don't like to do social media. Put something online, build a following, build a reputation. Make sure that's a good reputation. I mean, there's a lot of people with bad reputations, right? So if your reputation is good and you're giving, you should be able to monetize it along the way to the point where you actually make a return of investment from the competitive side. And if you don't do that, you're probably going to get stuck somewhere in the middle, chasing clouds and dreams that are never going to come to fruition. And that's the unfortunate reality of it. So to answer the question if competitive bodybuilding is worth it from a financial perspective, the answer is yes, with a constraint, given that you promote everything on social media. And now you're using yourself as a subject to promote something. And again, social media is for promotion and promotion only. You can document your life, but if nobody finds it interesting, you can never monetize it. So I'm monetizing the information that I'm giving you guys. Hopefully some of you will be interested in a service. If you're doing a competition, you can document the journey and attach some sort of monetization to that, whether that's a sponsorship or lifting gear, t-shirts. There's many, many opportunities, and that will be supplying you with an indirect source, because you're doing indirect source of income, because you're doing a competition that is helping other people, whether that's inspirational or help them along their competitive journey. Go with the times, go with what is monetizable now, document your journey, and by the time you do make it, it already paid for itself because you were able to monetize the journey. And when you do get to the end of the journey of getting a pro card and getting the fame and the fortune and getting invited because you're winning pro shows consistently, you were able to afford it and it didn't detract from any other expenses in your life. And I hope this video helps in your decision-making process if you're still undecided whether you want to compete or not. Purely looking at it from a financial perspective. Again, if you have amazing shape, amazing genetics, and you love this, you have a passion for competing, and you just want to see wherever you're going to go, please, by all means, go for it. Again, it's your decision, your responsibility. Make sure you keep your mood in check, because at one point your mood will take a beating, just like your body fat levels are taking a beating. And it will start to affect the people that you love most. You might not love them while you're doing a contest prep, but after your contest prep, you still want those people around you so you can actually go somewhere to dinner, so you don't have to eat a hamburger and ice cream with your trophy and nobody else. So we'll leave it at that. I would love to hear you guys' opinion and experience with competitive bodybuilding. Again, from a financial aspect, let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down to the comment section, don't forget to leave me a like. And if you're not subscribed, now's a good time to do so. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.